Well, if all the market research is correct, this could turn out to be a bit of a breakthrough. So, how long did you say you wanted to launch it?
About 3 months. That'll give us time to finalise the advertising and gear up production. I suggest we test the market within the Anglia TV region.
So, you reckon 3 months? Yes, I'll go along with that. How do you think we should handle the organisation?
Well, I've Alison, Gavin, Nigel and myself. Supposing I look after the assembly and distribution of all the written publicity to the agents and retailers, that will leave Alison free to concentrate on keeping the agency on time and dealing with the press. She gets a good response from them normally. Nigel can help her, and Gavin can supervise the merchandisers. He needs that sort of experience.
What about Roger?
Not this time. He's not working too well at the moment, and I can't use someone who isn't 100% on the ball.
Do you know what the problem is?
No, not yet. I'm seeing him again this afternoon.
Again?
Well, yes, I saw him a couple of days ago, and it didn't go too well.
I see. Well, look, let's finish this off first. I'm happy with the outline. What we need now is a critical path. Why don't you brief Alison, get her to set it down on paper, and then we'll finalise it.
Yes, okay. You know something? She's really good at that sort of thing, collecting information.
What do you mean?
Well, for example, when she's interviewing, she always gets far more out of people than I ever do.
Does that worry you?
Well, yes. I feel that I ought to be able to do the same. You remember when Alison and I were doing the last lot of interviews? You know, when we recruited Nigel? It was then that I realised just how good she was.
So that was when you left them?
Yes. Then I joined Harrison Grimwade.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen.
Nigel, I suppose you went to Harrison Grimwade to get retail experience?
Yes, that's right.
How long were you with them?
Just over 3 years.
What was your job?
Product assistant.
So you're familiar with market surveys?
Oh, yes.
Good. Good.
You say you've had experience of market surveys. Could you tell us about one of them?
Yes, of course. Oh, oddly enough, the last one I did was about your own market. Harrison Grimwade wanted to enter the toiletries market, particularly men's toiletries. I was given the job of researching the total market and establishing market shares.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did.
How did you go about it?
Well, I'm particularly interested in statistics. So I first of all did a detailed analysis of all the market research data and the retail audit. Then I established the major market shareholders and evaluated their products, including your own, naturally.
So you know something about it?
What happened then?
Well, actually, I went further than I was meant to, but it was lucky I did. One of the reasons H&G wanted to enter the market was to take up surplus manufacturing and packing capacity, and they thought toiletries were compatible. Well, I've got a friend who's a research chemist, a real backroom whiz kid. Well, I told him about my survey, and he told me about Taraxis.
Taraxis?
Yes, it's an ingredient of certain toiletries. Normally it's inert and harmless, but it's recently been found out that when it comes into contact, even with traces of ethyl oleates, it can be highly toxic. Well, most of H&G's products contain ethyl oleates, so they couldn't use our equipment anyway.
So that put pay to that project.
I certainly did.
So how did you report this?
Yes, it's interesting you should ask that. My boss had set his heart on the toiletries project, and he just didn't want to know about Taraxis. Well, he didn't believe me, in fact. I was in a spot. I didn't want to fall out with my boss and jeopardize my career, but I also had my loyalty to the company to think about. Well, in the end, I wrote my report, mentioned Taraxis, and that I'd requested that an official report be sent to my boss so that he had full evidence. Oh, I asked my friend to send a copy to our production.
You see, what was happening was he didn't seem to want to talk to me, yet with Alison he was fine.
And giving her lots of information, apparently.
Oh, right. If it hadn't been for her, we might not have appointed him.
Can you think of any other times like that when you've not got the best out of someone?
Well, yes, there's Roger. It's obvious his mind isn't on his work. It's like a bear with a sore head, upsetting everyone. Comes in at any old hour, and his work is suffering as well. I needed to get to the bottom of it. Hi, Roger. Sit down. I thought it was about time we had a chat. You seem to have gone to pieces recently. I always used to be able to count on you. Now I can't. It just can't go on like this.
Like what?
Well, for a start, why are you always upsetting everyone?
Like who?
Everyone. And I think your work is suffering, don't you?
What's wrong with my work?
Well, you forgot that meeting the other day, and the last report I had from you was awful. What really is the matter with you, Roger?
Nothing's the matter with me.
Well, if you think nothing's the matter, then I think you'd better turn in an improvement, or the next stage will be a formal warning.
Okay, Paul. If you want it that way, I'll play it that way.
What a foul-up that was.
Yes, it sounds like it.
All I did with Roger was to make matters worse.
You know, both the incidents you've told me about are linked with what you would call an interview situation. Have you thought about the type of questions you're asking?
Questions?
Yes. If we go back to that interview with Nigel and Alison, you were trying to probe Nigel's experience with Harrison Grimwade, weren't you?
Yes, that's right. I wanted him to tell me about his retail experience, but he wouldn't tell me.
Wouldn't tell you?
No, he just seemed to shut down.
Open questions and closed questions.
Sorry?
Open and closed. Alison asks open questions. You ask closed ones. In fact, you started off with a leading question. Remember?
Nigel, I suppose you went to Harrison Grimwade to get retail experience.
Yes, that's right.
How long were you with them?
Just over 3 years.
What was your job?
Product assistant.
So you're familiar with market surveys?
Oh, yes.
Good. Good.
You didn't get a lot, did you? You started off with a leading question, which led Nigel to give you the answer you wanted, and not necessarily the true answer. You then followed with 2 closed questions, which only ever get 1 or 2 word answers. In this case, 3 years and product assistant. What's more, you already had that information on the application form. Then, to cap it all, you asked another leader. So you are familiar with market surveys. He didn't need to say any more. Think how Alison did it. She started out with a good, open question, which invited him to talk.
You say you had experience of market surveys. Could you tell us about one of them?
Yes, of course. Oh, oddly enough, the last one I did was about your own market. Harrison Grimwade wanted to enter the toiletries market, particularly men's toiletries. I was given the job of...
Do you see what I mean? Can you see the difference in effect?
Yes, I think I see. I didn't get a lot out of Roger. Maybe that's why.
Maybe that's not why.
But I asked him and he said nothing was wrong.
Oh, come on now, Paul. How did you ask him? Didn't you say...
What really is the matter with you, Roger?
Nothing's the matter with me.
Well, if you think nothing's the matter, then I think you'd better turn in an improvement, or the next stage will be a formal warning.
Okay, Paul. If you want it that way, I'll play it that way.
Okay, Stuart, I realise I didn't give him a chance. I must put that right. Stuart, I'm beginning to see what you mean about asking the right question. I've never thought about it before. Perhaps that's my trouble.
A big part of managing is asking the right questions. It's not just what you ask, but the way you ask it. The tone is important. Remember the way you asked Roger what the problem was? Hang on, let me show you something. To be an effective manager, you've got to know what's going on. That means asking questions. Now, the problem with information is making sure that it's complete and correct. So you use the question firstly to get the facts, and then to make quite sure they're the right facts. Now, imagine it as a filter funnel. The raw liquid comes in at the top and passes through finer and finer filters until you end up with the pure, clarified product at the bottom. Okay? Right. So imagine the liquid represents information. What you want to do first is to make quite sure that you've got all that there is. So you use a wide, coarse filter, which is an open question. Open questions are to open up topics, and they usually start with, tell me about, and then you specify the boundaries of the topic. Remember how Alison got Nigel to talk?
You say you had experience of market surveys. Could you tell us about one of them?
Yes, of course. Oh, oddly enough, the last one I did was about your own market. Harrison Grimwade wanted to enter the toiletries market, particularly men's toiletries. I was given the job of researching the total market and establishing market shares.
The information that she has gained is that Nigel has had experience of market surveys and the toiletries market. What she needs to know now is just how much experience he has had. So she uses the next filter, which is a probing question. Probes are used exactly like a filter, to clarify information and to find out precisely what the informant means.
How did you go about it?
Well, I'm particularly interested in statistics. So I first of all did a detailed analysis of all the market research data and the retail audit. Then I established the major market shareholders and evaluated their products, including your own, naturally.
So you know something about it?
What happened then?
She interrupted you because she didn't want you to stop the process. She'd got part of the information, but she still needed more. You see, you can use as many probe filters as you need to make quite sure you understand the facts. Now, the next filter you can use is the finest mesh, and that's a closed question. It's one where you're looking for single facts. How long were you there? How old were you? How much did it cost? This is why you had difficulty with Nigel. Too many closed questions, giving him no real opportunity to talk. So, by now you should have established that you've got all the information you want and that it's correct. Okay?
Okay, but I'd like to be certain of it.
Of course you should. So how are you going to do that?
Well, I think I could say something like, let's see if I've got this right, and then repeat back the information I have. He could then correct anything I'd got wrong, and also he might add to it if it wasn't complete.
Exactly. That's the final filter. Check.
I'm beginning to see what I was doing wrong. It's clear and logical here, but in reality it's not as simple as that when you're in the interview situation. I never seem able to think of the right question until it's too late.
Maybe it's because you're not listening to the answers. If you were scrutinizing a marketing plan, you'd go on asking questions till you'd got all the answers you needed, wouldn't you?
Yes. Come to think of it, I had something like that last week.
Go on then. I'll ask the question. Tell me about it.
Well, I had a call from Alison about a problem that she and Gavin were having with the marketing figures for Suncharm.
Oh, I don't know, Gavin. We've been through every single figure and they all check and the total still doesn't tie up.
What's the problem?
Oh, there you are. Paul, can you help? We're at our wits' end over these wretched Suncharm figures.
Yes, you look it.
Well, forecast and actual sales don't even add up to the original marketing plan, let alone the revised one. And we've done it about 20 times, and whichever way you look at it, the answer is always the same.
Now, hang on. Let's start at the beginning. Why don't you tell me slowly and rationally what it's all about?
Right. Well, as you know, there's a panic on over the revised forecast. And we stuck our necks out earlier in the year that there would be a 20% increase in the south, 15% in the north, yes? Every area manager agreed to the targets, but now JJ thinks that we shan't make it and is saying that his job's on the line if we don't. Anyway, we've taken the actual sales and added them to the forecast, and far from being up, we are 20% down.
You have got a problem. Where did you get these figures from?
Well, we got deliveries from distribution and used our own projections.
And how did the figures from distribution come to you?
Gavin got them direct.
No, I didn't. They gave me the printouts and I took them off.
Oh, sorry. Well, it doesn't make any difference.
Gavin, they changed the number of tubes in the standard pack this year, didn't they?
Yes, they went from 6 dozen per standard pack to 100 per pack at the beginning of March.
So presumably they recoded the printout.
Well, presumably.
Well, did they or didn't they?
I don't know. I'll check. Hello, Sandra. Yeah, I've got the printout here for Suncharm deliveries in front of me. What is code 038 in terms of standard packs? Yes, that's right. What? No, you can't mean that. Oh, hell. Yes, I'll explain it to you, all right, just as soon as we've come off the ceiling. I mean, would you believe it? They've still coded it to 72 tubes. No wonder we thought we were down. I'm sorry, Alison, I should have seen it.
Oh, don't worry, I didn't think of it either. Thanks, Paul. You saved us a lot of trouble.
Be my guest.
Well, there you are. You see, with a problem like that on your own technical patch, you do it without thinking. You started with an open question. Tell me about it, slowly and rationally, if I remember. I suspect that you knew where the answer probably was, but you got them to think it through by asking questions. That was good for Gavin. He won't make that mistake again.
Now I've got to apply to other areas, like people.
Right. Why not start out by trying to find out what Roger's problem is?
Yes, okay.
Will you keep me posted?
Sure, as soon as I've seen him.
Okay.
Roger! I feel I didn't give you a chance the other day. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Paul. I had it coming anyway.
Look, Roger, I don't quite know how to put this, but we've known each other for a long time. And I know you well enough to know that there's something wrong.
No, there's nothing. Nothing that you can do anyway.
Nothing?
Well, look, Paul, I'm not too happy.
You're not happy?
Jane's left me. I know I should have seen it coming, but you never do you? You get so wrapped up in the job, don't you? And when it's too late, you realise what you've done. In the meantime, she upped and disappeared.
Disappeared?
Yes. That was 4 weeks ago.
Roger, I'm sorry about that. You still don't know where she is?
I do now. I got a letter yesterday.
Letter?
Yes. With a Torquay postmark, would you believe? The worst part is she's living with someone else. It must have been going on for months, and I didn't even notice.
So what would you like to do about it?
Well, perhaps if I could take a few days off, maybe I could go down there and see her, and perhaps get something sorted out.
No problem. I'll fix it with Stuart. Do you mind if I tell him?
No, go on. I suppose you'll have to know sometime.
Okay. How are you doing for food?
Well, I'd never get a job as a chef.
How about a curry?
Thanks. I'll follow you.
Poor old Roger. No wonder he's not himself. We'll have to see what more we can do for him. Well, you seem to handle that all right, Paul.
Well, I didn't actually seem to do anything. All I did was to repeat back what he was saying all the time, and he just poured it out.
Exactly. You've hit on the proper technique for counselling. Asking reflective questions. They're particularly good when you're dealing with emotional situations.
Reflective?
Yes, by reflecting back a key word or phrase. You see, you've just done it. You picked up on a word I used, reflective, and now I'm giving you more information. Look, you remember that funnel I showed you? A reflective is like a recycling device to keep the information circulating through the filter. It's good for getting emotion out of the way. Then you can start to discuss things rationally.
That's exactly what happened. Roger said he felt a lot better afterwards.
People usually do. So, how do you feel about questions now, Paul?
Oh, much better. Knowing the types of question and their effect makes it a lot easier to ask the right one. It helps you to think more clearly, too. I'll have a chance to practice again tomorrow at Jenny's appraisal.
So, how are you going to handle it?
Well, I've got the feeling that she's got itchy feet.
What makes you think that?
Oh, nothing obvious. Little signs like the marketing appointments page of the Times open on her desk, And she took a day off a week or two ago. Alison saw her on the train. Just a hunch.
I hope not. She's good. Well, that'll be a good test for your questioning technique. And don't forget the funnel.
Yes, I'm going to ask open questions to get her talking, listen to the answers, probe to get more details, and close to get facts.
Fine. Don't forget the reflectives if you need them. And don't forget silences.
Silences?
Yes. If someone is finding it difficult to answer, it's often better not to prompt them. Silence is extremely powerful, but it can be difficult. A 10-second silence in a conversation can seem like 10 minutes, but it often makes all the difference in the quality of the information you get. And one last thing, Paul. You're going to avoid leading questions, aren't you?
Yes, Stuart.
All right, Jenny. That seems to take care of everything on your list. Let's talk about the future. You've done nearly 3 years now. How do you feel about the job?
It's fine.
Sorry, that's the wrong question. What I mean is, how do you feel about your own progress?
Oh, I see. Well, as a matter of fact, it has been worrying me a bit.
Worrying you a bit?
Look, I might as well tell you, Paul. I have been looking around.
Looking around? Why?
It's nothing against the company, and you've treated me very well. I've learned a lot. But you see, I've been on the industrial marketing side for a long time now, and I do really want to be in retail. Well, that's what interests me most.
But Jenny, why didn't you tell me this before?
You're not exactly the easiest person to talk to, Paul.
So I'm beginning to realise. I'm trying to change that. Jenny, you say that retail is what interests you most. Tell me about your experience in it.
I did a course in retail marketing at Watford and got my diploma.
Yes, I know, but what actual work experience?
I was with Cavendish Foods. They were a really tough lot.
What exactly did you do there?
Merchandising, working on promotions. It's so fast moving, you had to turn your hand to anything at a moment's notice. Found I had a real flair for it.
How long were you there?
6 months.
So what you're saying is that you feel that your niche is really in retail marketing, and that's why you're looking around?
Right, but I've nothing against the company, Paul. I really like it here.
So if we could find you a job in the retail marketing department, you'd stay?
Yes, I certainly would. But I'd have to be sure that it was really a retail marketing job.
Stuart.
Ah, Paul. I gather you finished your appraisals. Don't forget it's yours next week.
No, I'm not forgetting that. And I've got a few things for you to think about. Thanks for your time the other day. It really helped. I'm much more aware now of what I was doing. I still sometimes ask the wrong question, but I've discovered that you can always rephrase them and people don't seem to mind. I believe they're probably pleased that you've taken the trouble to find out. In fact, I'm quite hooked on question technique.
Yes, it's a fascinating subject. And something you can use in so many situations, whenever you need information. Whether you're interviewing for selection or appraisal or in counselling, or whether you're solving a management problem or even a technical one. Good quality questions produce good quality answers.
Answers?